During the construction of the Yamato-class battleships, Japan exercised extreme secrecy surrounding the vessels in order to hide their characteristics from foreign navies so that upon debuting on the battlefield, there would be no foreign counterpart. There were two issues with this secrecy that the Japanese recognized during the Yamato's construction. The first one was, upon debuting on the battlefield, it was inevitable that the hostile force that faced Yamato would eventually figure out the ship was indeed mounting 46cm guns. And, during the construction of Yamato, there were several rumors that the United States had discovered the ship was mounting 46cm guns, and the Japanese were concerned that future United States battleship projects would counter with the same level of force. This fear reached a climax in October of 1940 when the Naval General Staff approached Rear Admiral Shimizu Fumio, the chief designer of guns in the 1st Division of the Naval Technical Department, about the possibility of constructing a functional 51cm gun. The Naval General Staff had been toying around about the possibility of constructing 51cm guns since November of 1939, but since rumors were now reaching a climax, it was a serious consideration. The theoretical characteristics of the 51cm gun would be derived from two live weapons. The first one is obviously the Type 94 46cm gun, which was first completed in June of 1939 for installation aboard the Yamato, and the second weapon was a 48cm gun that had been used for experimental tests in the 1920s. The basic design of the weapon would essentially have been an enlarged variation of the 46cm gun. The draft design and characteristics were presented to the Naval General Staff in June of 1941, and they decided to go ahead and order 2 barrels to be produced from Kure along with one mount. As far as historians can tell, one weapon was having its breech fitted by the end of World War II, while the other was just a barrel. Before World War II ended, both barrels went missing, and the United States never got to examine them. It's obvious that the Naval General Staff were heavily interested in constructing a warship mounting these weapons, and they went as far to order 2 of them along with an entire turret. So, this means that they must have had a ship designed, which they did, but all of the designs were destroyed before the end of World War II. The information we have regarding the ships themselves are solely based off recollections of individuals from after the war, and this means that they were inconsistent in certain areas, though there were details that did provide useful information about the general characteristics of the vessels. Obviously, this is a design where the ship was built around the guns. So, since the Japanese were going to be mounting the 51cm guns in dual turrets, and they did not want a loss in barrel count compared to the Yamato, the initial design called for 4 dual turrets, giving the ship a total of 8 51cm guns. The Naval General Staff also wanted the ship to run at roughly 30 knots maximum speed, and it needed to have armor capable of withstanding the 51cm shell fired from 20 to 30,000 meters distance. When the first design was completed, the ship was roughly estimated at 100 to 110,000 tons standard displacement. At the given moment, Japanese yards could not construct such a large warship, and Japanese ports would not be capable of maintaining the vessels, so Naval General Staff pulled back and they requested a design with 1 turret less. This resulted in a vessel of roughly 90,000 tons, which was still too large for Japanese yards even through a reconstruction of several facilities. So the requirements were altered once again, this time with the speed being reduced to a maximum of 27 knots to be in line with Yamato and Musashi. This dropped the displacement by an additional 5,000 tons, and 85,000 tons was regarded as satisfactory when rebuilding Japanese yards to contain these vessels. The new gun turrets would have a calculated mass of roughly 2,780 tons, which was roughly 200 tons more than that of the Yamato's triple turret. Another feature with these turrets that the Japanese had been toying with for roughly a decade was the possibility of interchangeability. So this meant that in the future, should the 51cm gun become unavailable, the dual 51cm turret could be swapped for a triple 46cm turret. This also worked vice versa, so should the Japanese have wanted to upgun the Yamatos, theoretically they could, however the structure of the ship would have to be strengthened in order to withstand the added blast pressure of the 51cm gun, which would of course increase Yamato's displacement. The only armor values that I've seen studied by the Japanese was for the turret faceplates, which would have been a staggering 800 millimeters of armor, which was impossible to produce in one plate, so it would have been two plates riveted together. For a comparative value, the face turrets of the Yamato class was only 650 millimeters, and the Japanese did manage to produce that in one thick plate. Being aware that the 51cm turrets were of similar size to that of the 46cm turrets, it is logical to assume that the rangefinders would have been the same or similar 15.5 meter base length rangefinders used on the Yamato and Musashi. It is also logical to assume that the Japanese would have used a similar fire control system aboard the new class of battleships in comparison to the Type 98 Model 1 aboard the Yamato. Now we're going to enter an area of controversy surrounding the design and give some context to it, and this revolves around the ship's secondary armament. There are many reproductions of the A-150 project that show the ship mounting the triple 15.5cm guns that were ripped from the Mogami class and installed on various other ships in the Japanese Navy. There were only 20 of these turrets used between the 4 Mogami-class cruisers, and 8 of them found themselves aboard the Yamato and Musashi, eventually having that number halved to only 4 between the two ships, and the light cruiser Oyoto would receive 2 turrets from the Mogamis. Other turrets would find themselves dismantled or placed on land positions. The weapon itself saw limited production time, and the Oyoto-class light cruisers were initially supposed to consist of roughly a dozen ships, and so any turrets that were left over would have most likely found their way towards the light cruisers rather than being mounted aboard the new super battleships, as the battleships didn't really need this secondary armament. The brand new Type 98 dual-purpose gun was seen as a better solution to both having a secondary armament for anti-ship combat and also having an excellent long-range anti-aircraft weapon. It is most likely that the Japanese would have completely overlooked the 15.5cm gun in favor of multiple 10cm Type 98s, even though, as war would show, the Type 98 was in limited production, and so the ships would have probably never been completed with a full complement of those weapons if the ships were ever ordered. The question as to what the secondary armament would have been is a huge dilemma for today, as it was back when the ships were being designed, as the weapons that they were looking at were in such limited numbers. With the designs having been completed and accepted, the Japanese intended to order 2 of these super battleships in 1942. However, on the 6th of December, 1941, Japan ordered a complete halt to large capital ship construction. Materials were being diverted away from the under-construction Shinano and Hull 111, while new projects that had not begun would have to be cancelled until a future date, which of course, the future date would never be reinstated. This is one of those projects that are impressive to read about and learn about the statistics of, but really had no chance of ever seeing the light of day. By the 1940s, Japan was solidified on the idea of using aircraft carriers, and so they began sending materials to mass-produce vessels of roughly 20,000 tons. With that having been said, there's nothing more to add on about the A-150 project for today. So, if you have enjoyed this video, why not leave a like and a comment down below, and have a wonderful day.